Regarding the rebellion, well, in 2015, when the migration crisis began, back then, the first act of the Hungarian government was a rebellion. They built our fence when it was still considered a grave sin. Since then, others have also started building fences, and it's no longer considered a crime or even a fundamental wrong. Then Hungary introduced the system, which is the only solution to migration. No one should be allowed into a country until their application has been processed. In the past 10 years, I have been to many discussions, listened to lectures, and heard from truly Christian, kind-hearted people who all tried to help with the situation caused by migration. But I have not heard a single proposal that would have provided a solution outside of the Hungarian model. The Hungarian model is, you submit your application, stay outside the country, we evaluate it. If the answer is yes, you can enter. If the answer is no, you cannot enter. I have not heard of anything better in the past 10 years. This is what needs to be implemented. But today, laws make this difficult. Hungary has been condemned by the European Court for this. We were condemned for the only solution that offers protection, even though we are not only protecting Hungary, but all of Europe. And of course, we will not let anyone in after this either, as this is the next step in the rebellion. In my opinion, the only solution is for many countries to rise up against the current bureaucratic, jungle-like regulations and judicial activism and say that enough is enough. We want to protect our citizens. No one can enter without our permission, period. Until this rebellion reaches a European scale, we'll keep having good discussions about legal reasoning, pacts, minor amendments, but nothing will work. I am the only prime minister in all of Europe who survived the migration crisis. Since 15. And there's only one reason for that: I've always stood by the people. It means security, it means border protection, and protecting that sense of home. Anyone who does not do this will fail, because they will turn against their own people. It is only a matter of time. So for the sake of solving the migration problem and for European stability, I suggest everyone pull themselves out of this jungle, this sea of restrictions that holds us back. Let's establish the rules and protect our borders. When it comes to American-Hungarian relations, a lot has gone wrong in the past 4 years. We have had to endure discrimination in many areas. And fixing this will be the first priority. The question of our cooperation with the new administration, and we also have economic plans, which I will discuss in due time, regarding matters of peace. I am not authorized to represent a stance on an issue where there hasn't been complete agreement. Because there are differences of opinion on whether to continue the war or opt for a quick ceasefire and peace talks. But one thing is clear today. The camp of the peace supporters is growing. And with the American election, the peace camp has grown significantly. We are not talking about victory and defeat. We are talking about a ceasefire We are talking about human lives. We are talking about stopping the destruction. So those who have this perspective on the war are now in the majority in the Western world compared to before the American election. This is a new situation. Europe needs to respond to this. This will not happen overnight. But today we took an important step to find an answer that will be acceptable to all 27 member states of the European Union. And after this press conference, there will be an informal dinner with the 27 European leaders where we will explore this issue further. And we still have one more day tomorrow. I am confident that by tomorrow afternoon, we will be much closer to a common response than we were this morning. I only partially kept my promise. We did open some champagne, but I was in Kyrgyzstan when Donald Trump won. The customs are different there. And after that, we tapped into the vodka supply. Happily, we celebrated this fantastic result together. There is a Hungarian saying, we say that old sins cast long shadows. This is intellectually true as well. So if you do not complete a certain intellectual task, but you start acting without it, first, show it, you have to pay the price. This is where we currently stand with the war situation. The essence of war is victory and defeat. But if you go into a war, and we Europeans entered it like this, without clarifying what victory means, if there's no definition of victory, then how do you know how long you have to fight? And now here we are, we never clarified it. Do we need to take back the Crimea too? High Topol, flag of Mato. Moscow? What is victory? And since we have not defined it, it's now very difficult to stop. But we cannot skip this intellectual work. We need to go back to the beginning. We need to ask the question again. What did we want to achieve? How do we want to avoid defeat? What do we mean by victory? And where are we now compared to that? Because right now we mostly just look like those who got lost in the forest, while hundreds of thousands are dying. This is not an intellectual game. It's a matter of life and death. I really hope that my answer to your question will bring us closer to achieving the work that needs to be done by tomorrow evening than we were before. Let's maintain our values. Size matters. We're talking about the United States and Hungary. The newly elected president of the United States has 1,000 bigger concerns than dealing with the grievances the Hungarians suffered over the past 4 years, like the lack of a double taxation agreement. But we're on the list of things that need to be addressed, obviously where we belong. The second thing that shouldn't be mixed up are personal matters and interstate relations. It's not interesting what kind of relationship two leaders have. That was only interesting until the elections. From now on, it's less interesting. For no one, it's about Hungary and the United States. But it's undoubtedly a huge opportunity for Hungary to be in such a close alliance with the United States.
Dad.
Like never before. This holds opportunities for us that we will certainly take advantage of. I would like to conclude my personal relationship with the newly elected American president with this response.
Enjoy your meal.
Because he is now the president. But just to wrap it up, I want to say that, so they wanted to imprison him. They wanted to confiscate his assets. They wanted to kill him. And today he is the president of the United States. And I'm always proud to fight alongside those who stand up to the ruling elite in an attempt to fulfill the will of the people. That's what I call democracy. That's our story.
We must know that big changes are coming, and we need to respond to them. There was agreement that peace should be established in Europe as soon as possible. There was agreement that Europe should take greater responsibility for its own peace and security in the future. To be even more direct, we cannot expect the Americas to be the only ones protecting us. It must remain a key player in the upcoming negotiations and processes that will determine the future. These will affect the fate of Europe, and negotiations will take place soon. Europe needs to have significant influence there to be able to impact future decisions. The schedule is such that we have a plenary session, and afterwards there are working groups, and we participate in the work of these groups. There was a working group that focused on economic security. There was one that dealt with migration. I won't go into this now. If the group leaders wish, they can summarize their work for you. I would like to make a comment only regarding migration. I've noticed for a long time that this issue has a very strong tension. The issue of migration is once again testing the limits of European institutional frameworks. Everyone is dissatisfied with the current situation, and everyone wants change. What I observed in my contribution today is that political leaders face a significant obstacle before they can implement change, which we must break through, and in our field we call this judicial activism. We make decisions, the governments implement them, and our joint decisions first run into European, then national judicial rulings. And so the achievements made in curbing migration suddenly burst apart. The only exception to this is Hungary, which has always stood on the side of rebellion against judicial activism. I do not believe we can stop migration if we do not rebel against the current laws and court rulings. Overall, I can say that we all thank President Emmanuel Macron for launching this platform, this form of cooperation 2 years ago. We agreed that continuation is needed. In fact, we need to strengthen it. And we all committed to being guests of Prime Minister Edi Rama next May in Tirana, Albania. I wish him much success in continuing the work.